Welcome everybody, and thanks for jumping in for either the recorded version, which you're watching from home, or those of you who are watching our Zoom chat live. We're going to have question and answers for those who are on live as soon as we're done with the little discussion. I think tonight's topic is an important one for upcoming event in about, what is it, 9, 10 days from now. We have the Rose Bowl half marathon, which had been moved, of course, from January. So it's kind of a crazy. We had 2 week taper, 2 week build, and then 2 week taper again. But keep in mind, we didn't build we built to about halfway to what you had just done in peaking for your build for the Los Angeles Marathon. So it wasn't that huge a jump to what you were not to something you weren't accustomed to. And the other thing is you do have a lot of ability, endurance, and speed left from the LA Marathon. Even if you took a couple weeks off, you build that back. That speed, you don't lose the endurance very quickly. You build the speed back very quickly, though. You lose speed, but you build that back pretty quickly. So let me share my screen with you guys. And here we go. Hopefully you're looking at this. And hang on a sec. Good. And here we go. Good. So tonight's topic, thanks for everybody for joining us today. Tonight's topic, whoops, is the Rose Bowl half. There you have it. We're going to enter, you can't see it right here. There's a gate here right in front of the Rose Bowl. This area here with the little tables you're looking at is where our expo will be after the race. This right here, this underground entrance right here, is where we will go through to get to the locker rooms and all of that. There's a gate out here that, like I said, you can't see. Just go, what is that, like 30 feet over from the front entryway, which you will not be able to get into before the race starts. But you will be able to get into the gate when you show them your little wristband. Whoops, little wristband that's on your wrist. And you'll be able to walk under that area you kind of see right there underground, and then into the locker rooms, which are underneath this plaza here. But at any rate, so much for that. Make sure you get your wristbands to get into the Rose Bowl locker room underneath the stadium. It's warm and dry, and we have a lot of bathrooms, and also locked away inside the stadium area that no one can get into except us and the Pasadena Pacers, which share the other locker room. Over here to our left of this picture is a big bathroom building, and we have that pretty much all to ourselves. No one outside can get into that. So with all those bathrooms opened up to us, we're not going to have any more lines to get into bathrooms these days. Problem solved. Oh, here's a little video. Just getting you excited for the big event. Okay. Rose Bowl half marathon in about 9, 10 days. We do have a 10-minute shakeout run. Next week, starting Monday, is the final. This is already the beginning of taper, the first taper week of two, but next week is the final taper week that builds to the actual half marathon itself. With all of these races, you want to start from where you were this past Monday, kind of do the similar thing again, and then work your way down to zero, doing less and less and less of the same things you did last week, the same type of things. So if Tuesday you had a day off, this coming Tuesday you'll have a day off. Wednesday, if you had speed work, this coming Wednesday you'll have speed work, but way, way less. So you're doing the same kinds of things, but you're tapering down from Monday to zero on Friday, zero work, zero effort on Friday. And then Saturday, you have this little 10-minute kicker that is at marathon race pace. If you want to join the crowd, we will be doing the 10-minute shakeout run on Saturday. This is just to get, there's some science behind this. You're getting your muscles working, your bodily fluids going. Um, your muscles loosened up Saturday morning, the same time as the race. Well, close to it. We're going to meet at 8 o'clock if you want to join us. 8 o'clock in Santa Monica at the Totem Pole, right near San Vicente, where it meets Ocean Avenue, right off of Ocean Avenue. And we're going to do that 10-minute run right on the Strand right there. And then that's at 8 o'clock. That's not this Saturday. That's next Saturday. This Saturday, of course, we're meeting at the Aquatic Center, which is way across the major parking lot from the Rose Bowl. That big picture, if you went from the front of that big picture we just had a second ago, that picture, um, you go straight across, doing the opposite direction, you'll be at where we're going to be meeting at the Aquatic Center, or just type in Pasadena Aquatic Center on your cell phones or car app or whatever, and it'll take you right there. Free parking for everybody. We meet at 7 o'clock at Pasadena Aquatic Center, right across from the Rose Bowl there, Saturday at 7. Sunday, we will also be meeting at 7 o'clock, kind of a skeleton crew at Balboa Park. If you wanted to join us Sunday, we're going to keep that one going. And so there you have it. But 10-minute run Saturday, the day before the Rose Bowl. That's a week from this coming Saturday at the totem pole there area right near San Vicente off of Ocean. Okay. Now, that's the 10-minute run. We're going to talk about the first 3 miles, which are just the same as the first 6 miles of the LA Marathon, just as critical, just as much a burnout area as the first 6 miles of the LA Marathon. The only difference is the cool thing is the first 3 miles become like 9 through 12. What goes up then goes back down, I should say, about 9 through 10 and a half. So what goes up then goes back down. So we're going to talk about all that and how to navigate the whole half marathon. We're going to talk about the last 80 minutes to go and how important that is, and where you're in the red zone. And after that, go for it. We're going to talk about nutrition before, during, and after. And we're also going to talk about a little psychology for race day, tapering for race, which we've just really pretty much covered, and then recovery. And we'll have our normal question and answer stuff. So here we go. Obviously, just a really quick discussion of heart rate. Don't forget, as your heart rate goes up and up and up, your glycogen levels go up and your fat consumption goes down. So basically, as your heart rate is going up, you're getting you're depleting a limited reservoir of glycogen, and you're going away from using an abundant reservoir, which is fat, as your heart rate goes up and up. So you only have so much glycogen, so don't let your heart rate go up too high, especially not too soon. The end of the race where you still got it, great, go for it. But let's take a look at our map. This is a newer map, but this map really has the elevation. You can take a look at the newer map. It does have where they have water stations, all these little droplets. You have a water table right a little after mile 1, then right after mile 3, then around a little after mile 4, then after mile 6, and then again after 7, and on and on and on, all the way around till you finish. and there's a water table. All of these water tables have electrolyte and water. You'll note electrolyte and water. Um, this one also has a first aid station right after mile 5 and 6, right in the corner there. So be aware, it's not every mile, but it's almost every mile. Here's another one right after mile 11. And then right after mile 11, halfway through mile 11, you got all the way to the finish line. Just go for it. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Let's look at our elevation chart and this old map. Obviously, right in here is the Rose Bowl. There's the picture of the front that you saw a moment ago. And your starting line is right here. So look how close you are to the starting line. You basically walk out of the stadium underground where you're warm and dry, and there's ample lights inside the locker room. And your start line is like right there. Okay. Make sure you get in the start line to the left. That's the half marathon. The start line to the right is the 5K. So don't get in the wrong start line. They're right next to each other. Okay. You'll see the start line banners up ahead. At any rate, get in the left, not the right, unless you're doing the 5K. So, right around here, right about 3/4 of a mile into your race, it's a nice little downhill, but then you got this like half mile of uphill, almost half mile of uphill going up to mile 1 right around here. But then it kind of levels off a little bit, but then it goes down a little bit. You kind of round the corner in here a little bit, this area here, and you get to this corner right there, right before mile 2. And look at this bad boy uphill. You're jumping from almost 0 feet to about 900 foot of elevation, call it 800-foot climb in 1 mile from there to there, a little over a mile. So you got about a good half mile and then a little over a mile um, in just before you hit mile 3. Okay. This in here, the corner of Colorado, and I forgot the name of this street. It's right where the Rose Parade goes. But at any rate, it's right where the bleachers are for the Rose Parade, right in here. Obviously, they're all gone now. But had we done this in January, the bleachers would still have been there before they tore them all down. At any rate, you take a right turn right in front of you, right before you take that turn. You'll see me standing in the middle of the street, across the street, looking at you coming up the hill there. And then you take a right turn. You'll pretty quickly see mile 3. Smile when you see me because I'll hopefully be taking pictures of all the different groups as they go by if you're in one of those groups. Now, mile 3, all the way down to like mile 5 or so, is this nice downhill glide. And then you kind of turn the corner. You're still going a little downhill till you hit mile 5 down here. But what was downhill is now a little bit of uphill. And then you go downhill again. This way is all downhill, and this way is all downhill, but this way and this way are all uphill. So you're going uphill again, a little downhill, and then a little uphill. Now, here going back, okay, and I'm going to talk about that 80 minutes to go thing where you might want to hold back. Don't let your heart rate go up too much during this downhill. Don't start flying it on the downhill until you hit that like 80-minute mark. And then we'll talk about that in a minute. And also, definitely similar to the LA Marathon, huge cutback in that half mile to mile 1, and then again that mile, a little over a mile. It's a little less than half mile, and then that a little over a mile all the way up to the top of Colorado there. That is the peak of your entire course. It's right near mile 9, mile 3, right that area in there, right that corner really is the peak of the entire half marathon elevation wise. Um, so really, really slow it down. And I'm going to show you a pace chart at the after all of this that really indicates how much slower you need to go in that mile 2 to mile 3, especially. Um, so then you're going downhill, you turn around, and now you're going up a little bit from mile 6, you're going a little bit of uphill till you hit that like mile right there, that same spot, mile 9, that area right in there. You're at the peak again. And then you plummet down this Arroyo Seco Parkway, down this area right in here where you see my cursor. And you're still that Arroyo Seco Parkway does not quite a U-turn, but it's a pretty sharp turn. And then as it goes down under itself, right, you do this kind of almost U-turn thing, and then you don't continue straight. You kind of turn back down to take the exit ramp, so to speak, and you go under the Arroyo Seco Parkway, and this whole area in here, back almost to back to like say mile 10, is this really nice kind of downhill, a little bit uphill, but then it levels off and then a downhill again to, like I said, around mile 10, right in that area right there. So, combination of severe downhill, to gradual downhill and a little kicker downhill, levels off, a little more downhill. And then from mile a little after 10, 10 and a quarter. So, right in here, you have a gradual uphill all the way to the back of the golf course here, right? It is a 60-foot vertical from right, excuse me, it's about a 60-foot, forget all this, there's a little uphill in there, but from the side of the stadium all the way to where you see this stream right there, it is about a 60-foot uphill within that, like about 1 mile, a little over 1 mile. Now, the 60-foot vertical uphill is kind of an unseen uphill. It's not that much. You're going from about, from about mile 11 here to up to there. You're going from, it's almost 900 foot. You're going from like 800 to, like I said, 60-foot vertical. You kind of see it on the elevation chart, from mile 11 to the back there where that water thing is. The key to this water thing, this little stream that you're seeing going through the golf course and underneath this street, is actually an important thing, an important moment. So once you come down this big hill, right in here, you're going to feel a little heavier as you approach this. You turn the corner to the right, and as you approach this water stream, which goes under the street, you don't run through the stream, it goes under the street, but you may feel a little heavier in that area because it is this slight unseen uphill. There's a little tiny dip and then it goes back uphill again. It's not perfectly aligned, but when you go over this little stream, there is a little, maybe 5 foot hump in the street. And the reason this is so important is because what went up right there, you're looking at it, what went up right before mile 12, you're looking at my elevation chart, goes down to the finish line, all the way down to the finish line. So that little hump in the road, that 5 foot tiny hump in the road, and if you look off to your right, you'll see probably a dried off, stream, and to the left, you'll see a dried up stream. Um, but from that hump, if you're not already trying to speed up and pushing the pace a little bit from that hump to the finish line, just plain floor it. Whatever group you're with, try and pass them by, leave them in your dust. And then last, because this is, yes, there's some little gradual roller kind of minor thing if you're looking at the elevation chart, but it's pretty much this gradual downhill all the way to the finish. Now, this little area in here, you're basically running to the side of the stadium, and then you're cutting in and you're going. You're not going out. There is a street that goes out in front of the stadium that you'll basically run on. It's right out here. So you're not really going out to the street there, um, which this starting line crosses at the very beginning. You're really cutting in to the stadium before that street that's like right out here. And for some reason, I guess it's this street right out here somewhere. At any rate, you're cutting in pretty quick before you hit, right around the side of the stadium. And this little area in here, you're actually going to go um, underneath that right side of the stadium. You came in on the left side of the stadium to get to the locker rooms. Well, this is the right side of the stadium you're kind of going down a little and into a tunnel that will take you into the field. But that tunnel is shaded. It's maybe a little slippery, so be careful because it's smooth concrete. So be very careful. You're coming off the street that's a little more granulated and the asphalt, and you're running on the concrete for only a few feet, maybe I'd say 50 meters max. And then you're coming out of the stadium, out of the tunnel, and so you're going into shade, and now you're coming into sun again. So if it's sunny out, that tunnel could, if you're wearing sunglasses, it could look a little dark immediately because you're not ready for it. If it's a cloudy day, which we're hoping for, I've made the phone call. I said cool and cloudy, no rain. If they listen to me again, as they did with the LA Marathon, um, you won't have really much of a visual problem in there. But if it is really sunny out, be kind of careful of your footing, not to slip, and also, be careful where you're going. If you're wearing sunglasses, see in the tunnel very well. Um, just be careful in there. A lot of people are speeding up and racing for the finish line, which is on the side of the football field. You will exit inside the stadium, which is a really, really cool thing. And once inside the stadium, you have a little bit farther to go on the side of the field. You're running down the side of the football field on the fake turf. I guess it's real grass. You're running on the side of the football field. The whole field is real grass, um, unless they've changed it or something. But at any rate, please try and get through that finish line corral as soon as you can because it's a half marathon and you have a lot of people coming to that finish line at the same time. And we don't want that finish line to back up so people can't run across the finish line because a mob of people are standing, right after the finish line and you have to stop abruptly. We don't want that. So please take your pictures. You'll walk around the perimeter and you can go right into the football field, get right across from the finish line, right across from that fence. It's a plastic thing. And you can take your picture with the finish line right behind you, right on the football field, which is really cool. You'll see people sitting and laying in the middle of the football field there. after the race. And of course, on this side, you walk all the way around. You can get, some bars or drink or water or whatever is on that side of the football field. And then you exit, and everyone exits through that same tunnel, which is now the opposite side of the field that you entered from. And you go right past the tunnel into our locker rooms, boom, into the locker rooms where everyone is exiting. You grab your bag of stuff, and then you can exit the field and the stadium with everyone else and go into that expo, which is the front of the Rose Bowl. So, cool perk having access to those locker rooms and being able to just leave a bag of stuff in the locker room. We've never had a problem with someone having stuff stolen or losing stuff or missing stuff. We've never had that problem. So, all well and good. So, let's continue our little tour on. Um, the final day before this is nutrition, and then we'll get to our pace charts and stuff. Nutrition. Oh, we have a little psychological thing coming next. Um, Really, it takes 3 days for your body to fully absorb a meal, right? So, this idea of carbo loading the night before is not the only way to do it. You have 3 days or 3 mornings before your race where that fuel that you take in is going to fuel your, in part, is going to fuel your race. Now, so you don't want to just carbo load the night before and have a huge pasta dinner where you'll wake up bloated and gassy and feel like you're going to roll yourself out of bed and uncomfortable. You don't want that. Sure, if you want pasta, if that's what you like for carbohydrate, I eat tons of pasta. Great. If that's not your thing, any form of carbohydrate works. You can use baked potatoes. Certainly, you want to get in a lot of vegetables for micronutrients. Carbohydrate, obviously, being one of the more important macronutrients, along with some fat and some protein. But you want the bigger one, carbohydrate, because remember, at a higher heart rate, you're using more carbs. You want to ingest as many carbs as you can before those 3 days before, not just the night before. Okay. Um, the last few days, you can kind of graze on, carbohydrates, um, but healthy carbohydrates, not like cake and cookies. Those are carbohydrates. Carbs turn into sugar. You want sugar, but you want sugar in a form that it's not going to spike your insulin levels and cause insulin resistance and cause glucose spikes, which cause your insulin to spike, and your insulin reduces your carbohydrate volume, right? So if you take in carbs in like processed sugar, it's going to cause your insulin to spike and it's cause you to have less carbohydrate in your system, not more. Insulin turns sugar into fat and stores it as fat. So it's not stored as carbohydrate. Got the picture? And yes, you can turn fat into ketones, but ketones are not as efficient as glycogen. Glycogen comes directly from carbohydrate. It's this honey-like substance that resides right in the muscle, and you want glycogen. You don't want fat to turn into ATP, which is the fuel that your body uses. And when I say glycogen, I mean you're using glycogen right now. That comes from carbs. You're using it right now at a low heart rate sitting here. But when you're higher, you're using more and more and more of it. And that's far more efficient than using ketones, which will make you just a little bit slower on your race. So there you go. If you're on a ketogenic diet, take in some carbs, some real carbs like fruit. Um, the real reason fruit, still sugar, the real reason that fruit is more effective than like cake and cookies is because fruit has fiber in it, and fiber causes the volume of sugar that you absorb in your bloodstream to take longer time because of the fiber. So, in other words, you're not suddenly flooding your system with carbohydrate or sugar. You're slowly taking in that sugar or processing that sugar and slowly turning it into glycogen because that fiber slows down this process, which is why fruit is better than cake. Got it? Um, and cake will basically leave you with less glycogen, where fruit will leave you with more glycogen because it won't spike your insulin levels and cause you to get rid of all that sugar and turn it into fat. It'll turn it into glycogen because of the fiber. Oh, enough said. Okay. You do want a mineral load before, like I said, taking in vegetables before your race day, those 3 days. Um, if not now, at least within 3 days before your race, eat healthy. Um, Try not, I know this one up here says high sodium. You do want some sodium the last 3 days to increase maybe sodium levels a little bit. The problem is you don't want to start shoving sodium onto food the night before because sodium will raise your blood pressure slightly. And especially if you are someone who suffers from high blood pressure, um, hypertension, high blood pressure, watch your sodium levels, but especially the night before, don't throw a ton of sodium on your pasta or something because it may raise your blood pressure so much so that you have a hard time getting to sleep the night before. So be really careful around sodium. You need more of it, but before you go to sleep that night, be careful. Don't pile on the sodium. Got it? Because you want to be able to sleep and not have higher blood pressure. Um, Breakfast, again, carbohydrates. If you can't do a lot of carbohydrates the morning before a long run, before your 20 miler, before the LA Marathon, before your 16 miler or 12 miler, before, that we just did, try, hopefully by now you've had trial and error. There's some kind form of carbohydrate that you find, maybe half a piece of toast, maybe whatever it is. During the race, you've hopefully tested things out. You know what gels won't work for you, what gels will work for you. Again, I recommend baby food. It's mulched fruit with fiber, like applesauce is a perfect example of baby food. Um, you may not be able to run and eat an apple. That's ridiculous. But you could take one of those little packets with the plastic knobs that you'll find in any grocery store and, push it into your mouth slowly. You do, if you're doing baby food, need mineral pills because there's not a lot of sodium in baby food. And you want to watch out for getting a packet with the highest volume of calories possible, like 80, 90 calories versus like 20, 30 calories in one of those packets. Usually the 20, 30 calorie packets, baby food, will include vegetables, which are good, but suddenly you're filling up this little packet with a lot of not so dense calories. You want dense calories with a lot of carbohydrate. You can avoid the baby food with the vegetables in it to get more calories, right? Okay. If you're doing baby food, I think goo is a great gel. I believe they will have goo on the course as they did with the LA Marathon in like maybe one or so. I'm not sure. We should look that up. I will know by next Next week, we're going to talk logistics of the race, and I'll tell you whether we're having gels on the course or not. But always have a backup B plan. Bring gels or whatever, baby food or whatever it is that you're going to take during the race. People who can't do big breakfast, you might want to try putting some like slices of apple or slices of, if you can't do baby food, whatever it is, slices of something in plastic Ziploc bags and bring that with you in your pocket or something. You'll hopefully figure it out this week before next week. But there we go. A little psychological thing. A lot of people get nervous before races. Actually, this is a good thing. If you are any one of these psychological attitudes, if you're lethargic, disinterested, unconcerned, your heart rate is really low, breathing slow, if you're as, quote, loose as a goose, calm, well, that's not always so good. Your arousal is too low, your energy output on race day is going to be less. On the opposite extreme, if your arousal rate is too high, you're hyperactive, overwhelmed, fearful, worried, heart rate is high, your breathing is rapid, your muscles are tense, you're nervous. Your energy level is also equally not going to be as high on race day. If you're a little nervous, kind of in the middle there, your optimal arousal is in the middle. That's where you're going to have your highest volume of energy on race day. So if you're a little nervous on race day, perfect. That's where you want to be because that's where you're going to have your most energy throughout your race. If it's a little exciting, get excited. Of course, again, we want to start tapering as of Monday this current week. So that's like 4 days ago. It's already Thursday. Monday, 4 days ago, you really wanted to start tapering because as your volume decreases, I know I've showed you this chart before. Your ability rate increases until, there you go, race day. You want to peak at race day with your maximum ability, even though your volume is declining. Your muscles are getting stronger, your hormone levels are rebuilding. And I'm not even going to go over this one. There we go. Whoops, we missed one. Okay, recovery. Um, and we might want to do this more next week, but really, really quick. You break up these little tiny filaments as you run, which is a good thing. That's what bodybuilding is all about. You're breaking up muscle tissue, and then you develop what's called hypertrophy, or you create hypertrophy, which means you're rebuilding these tiny, tiny submicroscopic filaments that are just strands of single beads of protein that get broken up and they come back stronger. So this really isn't a problem. That's what bodybuilding is all about. You're coming back stronger, you're coming back bigger. But with running, you don't really come back bigger. Um, we remain pretty thin, but you want to take more protein after your race in the next couple days to rebuild. These are all protein molecules to rebuild these little submicroscopic filaments. Gotcha? And rebuild muscle tissue. And it takes 3 to 4 weeks after a marathon, certainly not as much after a half, but to fully repair all these broken up, unfelt muscle tissues. At first, you may feel a little soreness. That's when you break up a lot of them. They then start to heal. By the way, people say after a race that, oh, I feel a lot of waste product buildup in the form of lactic acid buildup. That's a waste product. Well, after about an hour and a half, 2 hours, that lactic acid buildup, that hydrogen that is emitted from lactate creation You generate lactic acid is basically one ion of lactate, one ion of hydrogen. They break apart, so you have the lactate gets recycled into glycogen, and the hydrogen ion gets bonded with other molecules that create acids. Okay. So people are often saying, well, I feel lactic acid, which they break up apart. Really, it's acid that's not lactic acid. But after about an hour and a half to 2 hours, that hydrogen molecule will even break away again and will be exhaled out of your body so that it's really not even acid that you're feeling anymore. It's these broken up filaments. That's what the soreness is after about an hour and a half. And you'll hear people like 3 hours later, well, I have a lot of lactic acid buildup. No, 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 no. You have broken filaments. Your muscles are damaged. And it's not a bad thing. It's what we all do. It's what bodybuilders do, as I say for the third time. You'll heal more protein. Um, don't stop don't stop moving. The more you move, the more walking you do, the more blood flow you get to the injured area, the quicker you'll heal. The more sedentary you are, the more you sit, relax, the less blood flow you'll get, the longer it will take to heal. Now, 8 to 9 hours will rebuild the hormone levels like human growth hormone, which will help you. Yes, human growth hormone helps regrow muscle tissue, form this protein molecules back into these little tiny filaments and grow them again. So 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night after your race. And dare I say, before your race, starting at least on Monday, 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night. I know I'm sounding like somebody's bad parent, but it's listen to your parents. They were right. Um, like I said, it's during sleep when you have hormone replacement and muscle building. And right now, that's what taper is all about, rebuilding muscle tissue. You're stronger. Your hormone levels are on high, your testosterone levels. All men and women, too, have little bits of testosterone. Even women have a little bit of it. I think it's a fourth to that of what men have. But testosterone is a great motivator and will help men and women. Okay. At any rate, that's why you need that 8, 9 hours of sleep every night. If you can do that starting now, even better. And then afterwards, you still want to maintain taper weeks throughout your building and training for your next race. And we've already covered all the other stuff. In your off season, we're going to have a lecture 2 weeks from now. Discuss what do you do in the off season, but basically stretching and strength training right now and in the off season are key. Now you have a little more time to do a little more stretching, a little more strength training. Definitely get your last strength training workout in, hopefully Wednesday of next week. You don't want to be breaking up a lot of muscle tissue from strength training and show up. I've done this, show up on the starting line feeling sore. Although I must say that race happened to be my PR race, but I was risking greater injury too. So be careful. Take your last strength training on Wednesday if you're going to do strength training, which I do recommend, by the way. You can do at home. You don't need a gym. You don't need weights. You can do squats and rear lunges and all of those curtsy squats, all great for your hips in there. So there you go. With that, I say, like I always do every week, do not look at where you are today and ask why. Look to the future and all the possibilities that lie therein and say, why not? I will see you at the finish line of the Rose Bowl half marathon in 10 days. I will see you at the finish line. I thank you all for listening to this on the recorded version or watching it on right now on live. So with that, those of you who are on live, hang on. I'm going to end this recorded version for those watching at home. But again, thanks for those of you watching the recorded version. And whoops, I'm doing the wrong thing here. Hang on. Whoops. Well, here we go. And good night, those of you watching the recorded.